Hello everyone, welcome back to leewhat channel. Today the video is a bit different. It's not about Crusaders Quest or any gaming, but it's about setting up a network router. So if this is too technical for your taste, then you can just skip this video. Else, welcome and let's learn together. So for the backstory, I have a Mikrotik router RB750GR3. It's kind of old now. It's almost 7 years old. It still works great, but recently I found a good deal for this Mikrotik hAP AX2. It is a ARM64 base, and it supports the new feature from Mikrotik about container. So for this video, I want to set up the router and then set up a container for a DNS server. This DNS server will help me to bypass my internet service provider censorship and also blocking some ads. So let's start it. The first thing we need to do is to plug the power to the router and also press the reset button. Press and hold the reset button to reset to default configuration. And we'll be using this Winbox application. Once the router starts, it will show up in this neighbors tab. Then we double click the IP address, and for the login it will be admin, but for the password you need to check the sticker beside the unit itself. Now the password is unique to each router, so you need to check, and then we press connect. We will see this router OS default configuration, and we just press OK. We can close this log and the terminal and the file. So it will ask us to change our password. So I will change it now. Now for the first thing we need to use is the quick set. We can just press OK. By now we should have internet already. So we can check it by going to the system and then package, check for update. So this is the latest version right now. To simulate this better because of the censorship, I'll be changing couple configuration. I'll disable the use peer DNS, and for the IP DNS, I will add my ISP internet DNS. So it will be 203.142.82.222. So right now we can test it by trying to open reddit.com. You will see that it's not loading up. Mikrotik.com loads fine, but we cannot load the reddit.com. This is the current state. So now I want to set up the container to install the DNS server. For this, we need to go to mikrotik.com/download, and this is the ARM64. We want to download the extra package. You press this icon to download it. Once you download, then extract the file. Then we can go to the files. We press upload, the one we just extract. Then we pick the container. We wait until it appears, then we restart the router. System reboot to install the package. we need to fill in with the new password, and we wait until the neighbors show the router again. Now it's up again. We can log in now, and we can see on the package list the container is installed, and we have a new menu button here, container. But we won't mess with it first. For now, we need to set up an interface so that our container can interact with our internet. For this, you can either by going with the terminal or by using the GUI. We go to interface, VETH, then we create new. The address, you can pick any one you want, so I'll be doing the 10.0.0.2/22/24 subnet, and for the gateway 10.0.0.1. And then we go to the bridge. We create a new bridge for the containers. I will name it containers. Then we go to the port and we pick the interface for the VETH1 and the containers bridge. Now we can close this and also this. After that, we need to add the addresses to the container. 10.0.01 subnet 24 with the interface containers. And then next is because this hAP AX2 doesn't have a USB port or any micro SD, so we don't have any external storage. The internal storage is quite small. It's 128 megabyte and only free about 94.3 megabyte. For this container, we'll be using around like 30 to 40 megabyte. So I won't want to use much from the internal space. Instead, I'll be using the RAM disk. We still have a lot of plenty of RAM, 700 megabyte of RAM free. So for that, we'll be going with the system, and then this, we create new with the type tmpfs, and we like allocate 100 megabit and press OK. Then we'll be seeing the name is tmp1 and then a new directory here. Now we can start configuring for the container. First thing, go to the config, and we need to add the registry URL. For this case, I'll be using the docker.io. registry1 docker.io, and the temporary directory, this one is the folder that will be used when pulling the container. I will add another directory pool. Next, we need to create the mount for the container where the configuration will be saved at. So I will name it Blocky. For the source, this is the folder that will be inside our internal storage. I will name it Blocky config. And destination is the folder inside the container. I just name it config. Next, we need the environment variable for the Blocky container. So I just name it Blocky. This one is specific for each container. For this one setup, we need to use Blocky in caps config file. And then we add the folder. Just now we add the config file and then config.yml. So this one is referred for the location for the config file, which means we now need to add Blocky config /config.yml in the internal storage. For that, we need to create a new folder in our Windows Explorer. We create a Blocky config, and then we create a text file with config.yml. Then we drag this to the file in Winbox. Just drag and drop. We already create the new file. So this config.yml is the config file for the Blocky container. So what is Blocky? Blocky here is the DNS proxy and ad blocker for the local network. It has a feature for block. We can define allow or deny list per client group and periodically reload of external allow deny list. And it also supports modern DNS protocols. It supports DNS over UDP and TCP, DNS over HTTPS or DOH, and DNS over TLS or DOT. So my ISP Internet Service Provider blocks the DNS over UDP and TCP for the third-party DNS server. So I need to rely either from the DNS over HTTPS or DNS over TLS. Now we continue with the config. This one is the simple configuration file. For that one, I already have this. First is the upstream, and then groups default. This is the server that I want to use for the DNS server. I have two. This one, the first two is the Cloudflare, and then this one is the Google DNS. It's 1.1.1.1 and the port is 853 or 1.0.0.1 or 8.8.8.8 or 8.8.4.4 with the TCP TLS. And there's this bootstrap DNS. This one is specific for my ISP because if I'm not using this DNS server, then I cannot download this block list. This one you can delete if your ISP is different. Then for the blocking, we have the deny list. I add this mainly from the Hagazi DNS block list with the light and then the thief and then a native TikTok tracker and then this another host, and for this the fake news, gambling, and lastly the Discord phishing URLs. So hopefully no one gets scammed in my network. Then we add to client groups block default ads. These ads you can name it whatever, but you need to pick the same name. After that, the loading, the refresh period is how long before we try to download again the new block list. I put it for the 24 hours, and then this timeout is for the download because some of this block list is quite large. It's almost like 90,000 lines, so it can take some time to download. The default is 5 seconds, which is too short to download this, so I put it 90 seconds just in case. And then for the caching, prefetching, I set it to true, so we get faster DNS resolution. And for the log, for now I'm using the info. This is we can get some information when we start it, but later on after we are done setting up, we change this to error, so we only see error message. Now we proceed with creating the container. So we have two choices to get the source of the container. One is based on file, another one is remote image. I'll be using the remote image. We'll be using the one from zoyq-blocky. We need to copy this and add to the remote image and then add latest. For the interface is the VETH1 we created just now, and the environment list Blocky with the mount Blocky as well. And we need to put this root there. This one is the place where the containers downloaded will be put. Because I want to save the space from the internal storage, I will put it under tmp1. So tmp1 / any name you want, I put in Blocky. And we enable logging. We cannot enable start on boot because we are using RAM disk. RAM disk will be gone once we reboot or any power outage. So this one cannot reliable. Then we can enable the log first, and then we can see the status now. Extracting, importing remote image, getting layer, import successful. So now we can just press start, and we will see some information. The list cache import succeeded. This one is our block list. So you can see some is a 60,000 line, 90,000 line, 10,000 line. It takes a while. So we have total 368,000 domain block. Right now we have DNS server is working. Now we can try test the DNS server. So normally we look ns lookup google.com. We will get the result from this. But because of my ISP blocked the third party, so let's say I want to use the Google DNS server. It will show timeout. But now because the Blocky DNS server, we are using the encrypted version via the TLS, my ISP cannot block that. So let's show like ns lookup google.com 10.0.0.2. Now we can get the result. So we need to redirect this to force every device on my network to my DNS server here. For that, I need to go with the firewall and then the NAT. For the chain, I will be using the DST NAT and protocol TCP. The DNS uses port 53. And because we don't want our DNS server redirect itself, so we need to exclude that. 10.0.0.2. And the action DST NAT to our DNS server 10.0.0.2. Okay, we need to copy it again for the UDP. So now if we are still using the Google DNS, we still can get reply now like this. And we can try to load reddit.com now. It works. Now the next problem is because I'm using the RAM disk. When the router restart, let's stop the logging first. Too many. Because we are using the RAM disk, the TMP one, right? When the router restart, the container content will be gone and the container will fail to start. So we need a script to recreate the container. For that, we can use the script from this guy named Optio. He created some generic approach for updating containers from remote repository. So we can just select all. And we go to System, Scripts. We create a new one. Let's say restore Blocky. We paste. We need to do some adjustment here. So it based on the container command. So I will give the container command name Blocky. And we then right click the container to make Blocky. So now the script can find the container to be updated. But we need to adjust one more variable here. The container started status. We need to set it up as true, because this script will detect if the container is running or not. If it's not running, and when we use it to update, it will keep it not running. But I want it to always run, so I change this to true. After that, we need to use scheduler to use the script every time the router reboot. So I just name like container. And the startup is over. Start time will be startup. And we add the script to run. System script run restore Blocky. But if we just use like this, the script will run too fast before the internet's detected and the container will fail. So we just add a delay, like 10 seconds or 20 seconds. Now we press OK to save it. This should be fine now, even if we restart the router. And to make it cleaner, we go to the DHCP server. We now can change the DNS server 10.0.2 to our container, the Blocky here. Now let's try with the reboot to see if the container is still running or not. Now we can check on the log. Importing remote image is extracting now. It stopped and it should be running. So it works. So before I end this video, just for the security purposes, we go to IP and then services. We close the one we don't need. API SSL, FTP, SSH, Telnet, www, Winbox. We make it only the internal can access it. 124. So only the LAN network can access this management. So I hope you learn something from this. Bye bye.